If you're watching this on YouTube, then welcome. This is the Studio Culture stream. We are doing this on the Discord channel, and there's a link in the description down below. So feel free to come and join in. We do it on a Friday afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the world. And yeah, it's just nice to come and hang out, have a chat, and get involved in the Discord. So there we go. Today is scales. So I'm just setting up my screen as usual. We're doing it with a plane. Just, I feel like I always use a plane these days, but there we go. Going to be an EV, material preview for this, and then just adding a texture coordinate input. Plain old plane, yeah, that's right. Just keeping it standard. We could do some 3D textures at some point, and we should probably do some. You can do some like really fun things with flames for like volumetrics, so we should do that at some point as well. Yeah, so scales are a sort of like a repeated pattern, and they overlap by 50%. So you just have to make that kind of pattern, and we're going to do it in such a way that we can affect it so that you end up with these like square edges as well. I posted a thing about it on Twitter a few days ago that just showed thing. Luca Rude was doing one, and he was doing he was like saying that he'd found a way to do it really lightly, and it just made me think of a technique for doing it, and then I shared it with him and he said that that wasn't the way. So I'm excited to see what he does, because if he's found an even lighter way to do this, then I'm definitely interested, because this is the best way that I can find. So yeah, I feel like there's a little bit of like node golf when people share their setups. Scales. So in this one we've got a little bit of a control that lets you like round off these corners, and they're all sort of laying over each other, like so like roof tiles, and then if you round it off then they look more like scales. And we can have a little bit of a play with like creating some displacement with these, giving a random color for each one and putting UV coordinates on them. So nice easy way to start. We're just going to take object coordinates, which is what I normally do, and then take vector math, set it to scale. And then this is just going to give us the freedom to bring more scales into the picture. And then just immediately we're going to be separating, separate X, Y, Z. And then math node. So a nice easy way to do tiles is to use ping pongs. So if you take X and Y and you ping pong each one, and then you do a smooth minimum of each one, so they're joined back together, then this distance is going to round the corners. So we're basically using this method, but instead of doing square tiles, we're going to be doing elongated tiles. So this bottom one is going to be 1. So we're going up to a value of 1, and then we're coming back down. And then crossways, we're going up to 0.5 and then back down. So they're going up at the same gradient, which is why we get the like nicely rounded corners properly. So we just need to do 2 of these and offset them. Basically, that's this is the easiest way to do it, and then we need to work out how to layer them up. So I'm going to Control Shift D on these, bring them down, and I'm going to add a vector math in before, and this is going to let us have a bit of an offset. So if I just multiply these together so that we can see them both at the same time, if I offset these, you can see them starting to shift. So we want to offset in the X by 0.5 and in the Y by 1. I would make sure that you haven't changed these. So now we have our 2 sets that are offset from one another. The next thing we need to do is we need to get a gradient from the bottom to the top of each of our rectangles. So what this is going to let us do is each of our tiles goes from 0 to 2 in length, and then the next one starts. But if we add in our other set, then they're offset by half. So we have this effect going on. And then if we use the maximum of each one, then basically we're taking this bit, and this bit, and this bit. So we're going to get that kind of stepped offset of our of all of our different shingles together. So to do this, where we've got our ping pong, we're going to be using the Y axis here. And instead of using a ping pong, we're going to be using a modulo. Or actually we could use a fraction because no, it's going to need to be modulo. So fraction goes from 0 to 1 repeatedly. And in this case, we need to go from 0 to 2 because this is going 0 to 1 and then back to 0. So this distance here is 2. So I don't know if that makes sense, but there you go. You can see that we're going up to 2 there. And this is another thing actually, modulo. You can see that the section below 0 goes down to it's in a negative space. So if we have our x gradient here, or our y, sorry, above 0, we're getting this effect. But below 0, you come down like this. So it's going down to -1 each time. Whereas fraction uses floored division, which means that you always get it above, right? It's always coming away from negative infinity, whereas modulo comes away from -1, or sorry, comes away from 0. So how are we going to rectify this? We need to, I'm sure there's a way of doing this with like, there's we've got in here, we've got like floored and truncated, which I think is the names for the different types of division going on. And we want to have, I'm just not sure how to change this. I think what we'll do is we'll use a fraction just so that we get it reliably, but we'll also need to multiply this by a half, I think, or divide by 2 so that it's the right scale. There we go. So because this only goes up to 1 each time, the alternative would be to change the scale of these tiles from being 1 across by 2 high to half across by 1 high. In terms of optimization, that might be the best way to do it because we can always just increase the scale here. So with optimization, everything which is affecting scene information, right, these inputs, like we have texture coordinates, we've got things like the bevel information, geometry node, the particle info and object info, light path. Anytime that you do calculations based on inputs from those, you're going to be using computation time basically. Whereas anytime you use just like maths, so if you've got like a value and then maths going on to this value, this stream is free, whereas this one that's coming off the object coordinates, this one costs in computation. So with materials like this, we don't really need to think too much about the computation weight of each thing, just because it's really not that much of a like testing material. I'm gonna do that thing where I'm just gonna cut this down into like half the scale. I think that's gonna make this easier. So I'm changing these ping pongs to 0.25 and a half. So a quarter up and then down gives us 0.5 wide, and 0.5 up and down gives us 1 in length, which is going to let us use the fraction node. So again, take that fraction down to here. We also need to change our offset here to match the ping pongs, so 0.25 and 0.5, and that's given us that offset. So now, if I take if I multiply these together, I think the joy of doing live streams is that you kind of have to work things out a little bit as you go. So you're probably going to see me make a load of mistakes as well today. So I'm just multiplying those by the fraction, and that is giving us the sort of the ramp from bottom to top. And then if I do a maximum, then that's giving us the overlapping look. So we want some of these values to be controlled by both, like controlled in both cases at the same time. And I think just to give me some more control, I'm going to use dodge and burn, just like I always use dodge and burn. I just think they're really powerful. So I'm going to drop a burn on first, and that's going to give me the cutoff. So that's that's bringing the black into the tile. And then I'm going to use a color dodge afterwards, set to white, and that's going to bring the white point of the tiles. You can see that's flattening that off. I think maybe I need to put this multiply after, because otherwise we're getting the rounded tip already. Yeah, that's a lot better there. So do the same down here, color burn, color dodge. And then I want these all to be controlled together, so I'm going to add an invert. I really wish we would get a slide, like a sliding value input, so that we can have this kind of slider on its own. But generally speaking, you can just use an invert and it's fine, although it's outputting like a vector, which part of me thinks it's probably, I was going to say it's using extra computation, but actually we haven't connected it to anything, so it's not actually taking scene information. So it is a constant, it is being calculated at the time that the cycles compiles. I'm just going to have a drink. Man, there's something about live streaming which is just, I don't know, it's just like so much more pressure. It's really strange. If I'm not making sense or anything, just shout at me, or if I'm going off on a tangent, because I can see the chat, so. Okay, so I'm adding these two in. I'm working with a bunch of people over your shoulder. It is, it really is. Yeah, so this is how I use the invert all the time actually, just because I like sliders. I just really like things being like bounded in their range, whereas the value input is not. We actually need this to go from, because these go from 0 to 0.25, and our color dodge is linear, so it's only actually affecting from 0.75 to 1. So I need to change the range of this, and to do that I'm going to use a multiply add. So instead of going from 0 to 1, we want to go from 0.75 to 1, which means that we can just divide by 4 and plus 0.75. So we're ending up with a quarter. So multiply by 0.25 and then add 0.75. And that's going to give us that proper range that we want. So this is the fall off. The next one that we want to do is this, which is basically the same, but we go from 0 to 0.25. So I'm going to duplicate another one. Yeah, we're using it like a map range in this case, but because it's such a simple change of the range, it's easier and lighter to do it with this. In this case, because we're going from 0 to 0.25 instead of 0 to 1, we can just divide by 4. That's simple. Oh, I spend so long lining up my notes and then they all move. It's so frustrating, so rude. Okay, this one is the gap. gap width. And then we also want one for the roundness so that we can control the roundness of the corners. And there we go. So at the moment this is all coming from bottom to top, and we might want to have it rotated so that it's coming in the opposite direction. So we can do that by basically taking the output from this fraction, which is 0 to 1 each time. 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 1. We can change that to, well, we can invert that basically with a math note by putting it into the bottom socket of a subtract. So you're basically saying 0 to 1, but 1 minus that. There we go, that's flipped them over. Nice. So far we have our like displacement, you can think of it. This is always the first part that I do. And like in testing, yeah, it goes, if you have like one and the other, nice little wiggle. I wonder if you could do like a brain shader like that. Have something where it's sort of working out a random path over a brain. That might be quite interesting to do. I'm just going to add a subdivision surface set to adaptive, simple, and then add a vector displacement. I've started using Node Wrangler's like other functions that I didn't realize that we had access to. So if you Alt right click on something, you can like drag. This is so cool. You can like connect stuff, like quick connect stuff, and it'll try and pick the correct socket. Doesn't always get it right, but it tries. It's just like such a time saver when you're working quickly. So we put that to the height, and options, Alt right mouse button. Yeah, there's a few actually. I'll go through them in a sec. So displacement and bump. So we've got Alt right mouse button does quick connections, and it'll just like go for the next socket, as you can see. And then we've also got Shift Alt gives you this blue one, and then it's going to let you say from and to. So in this case, it's saying if we say to the scale, then it's going to give. This only has one socket output. I'll try and find one that's got multiple. So if I go from the texture coordinate, if I go Shift Alt and connect those across, right, Shift Alt. So it's saying from, and you can pick. So we could pick window to mid-level. I don't know why we would do that, but yeah, so that lets you have more control. And then you can also do Control Shift, and it'll give you this green one, and that lets you, it'll add a mix. So I'll put them together with a mix shader, which is really useful. So I actually, it defaults to the generated one, which is really frustrating. Okay. But yeah, super useful. Node Wrangler has so many extra things. You can do like node alignment stuff as well. They've got all of the stuff in this sidebar. Yeah, interesting. Just like loads of things. I find it so odd that Node Wrangler isn't enabled by default. It's such a useful add-on. Yeah, seriously, it's so useful. I'm just going to increase the screen subdivisions to B1. There we go. Shift equals, really? Wait, really? That is, that's not doing anything for me. Oh, control equals adds an add node. Is that just like is that a thing that happens everywhere? Ooh. If it's got a vector socket, I'd say, yeah, Control plus, yeah. For multiply, really? Like Control 8 or like the number pad one? Okay, Control, nice, on the number pad. Oh. And divide works? And subtract? Wow, this is super useful. I feel like there's just so many shortcuts in Blender that people just don't ever find because you can't even find them through the menus. Yeah, literally always have to add it to the start of videos just to tell people. I feel like a lot of people come to Blender not really realizing that add-ons is a big part of the ecosystem. And I think that's like a big problem because obviously we've got so many add-ons. If we have a look in here, like these are just the default ones as well. And there's like dozens in here. Just for like all different things. I remember on one of the Blender Today podcasts, they were talking about why different things, like specifically Node Wrangler, why that wasn't enabled by default. And they were saying it's about like keeping the interface clean. And because if you were to enable everything, then you would just have so many tabs down the side here, just like so many things would be active all the time. So it's to keep it clean, but I don't know, there are some things that I think are so useful. Like there's never a reason you would do nodes without having Node Wrangler enabled. The Node Arrange add-on. Oh, is that for doing the yeah, just go and enable all of the add-ons for this tutorial. Node Arrange, do I already have this? Oh, it's the one that I don't have enabled. Control equals. Oh, shift equals. Shift. Yeah, Blender does start up pretty slow actually for me because I've got I've got Vertex and I've got animation nodes, and every time you start Blender, you can see on the console that it's just going through like all of the different nodes that it has to import. Shift equals isn't doing anything for me. I mean, shift equals gives you plus as well. Unless, do you have a separate equals key, Jaren? My equals is just the equals and the plus key. Okay, we're just going to reduce these down a little bit. So even just already, I'm going to add I want to see this with shadows. So already we've got a nice little bit of our tiles going on here. If I just reduce these, you can make them look like scales if you just reduce the fall off a lot and increase this one should be called roundness. And then we want to add some things for for texturing. So we want like a random value per tile. We would like what would we like? Random value per tile. We need a UV per tile. It'd be quite fun to do like random rotation per tile as well. Just have like, if it was scales, you could have an area. It'd be nice if we could control it like that as well, actually. So if you have an area of like a dragon or a snake or something that's been hit, which you could like texture paint on, then you could make that so that like all of the scales in that area look like twisted and bent outwards. That might be a fun little challenge to do. So as things are now, we have got just the displacement. So where we've got these fractions here, I think we can just add snaps to them. So something that's definitely worth setting up as well is your, we need to do it from the scale. Set up quick shortcuts, quick favorites. So any node that you use a lot, you can right click on it and add to your quick favorites. And then it's always there. So I've got texture coordinate node, got a value node, noise texture and Voronoi texture. I've got white noise, mix RGB, color ramp, math, vector math. Just as like defaults, they're so useful to have available. So I press Q. Well, Q is for the quick shortcuts, right? And it's contextual. So my quick favorites for object mode in the 3D viewport are like transparent background, show overlays, subdivision surface. And then, yeah, anything in the viewport, you can right click on it and set it to, apparently not everything, but you can add most things to have a quick shortcut. Definitely anything in a menu anyway, add to quick favorites. No, they just get saved by default. I think when you quit Blender, I think they get saved when you quit. So if Blender crashes, then it will forget all of the changes that you've made, which is very frustrating. Blender doesn't crash often for me, but it does occasionally crash. Save the file. Oh, yeah, you're way ahead of me. I've not saved. I'm really bad. My brother reminded me to do a backup of all of my degree. I haven't done a backup for like 6 months, and I'm just coming up to the end now. It's awful. Tutorials. I've got all these hard drives as well, so it's not like I've got an excuse. Scales 2. Okay, so I've just taken the scale node here and to a snap node, and we're going to snap it twice the ping pong values, because we want the whole tile, whereas, yeah, the ping pong goes up and down for like half and half of the tile. Hey, whoever just joined. 0.5 wide and one length. There we go. So these snap values line up with these tiles, which they do, and I'm just going to duplicate this down, add it after the add node here. Alt right click to connect that. Oh, that's okay, Ayad. Nice to have you in though. Thanks for joining. Right, so we've got snaps at the top and we've got snaps at the bottom. I am going to add, because if we just join all of these together now, we're going to end up with basically like regions of the same value. So this one here from the one below is going to be the same because we've just offset it. But actually we want this to be like plus half of the difference as well, so that we're like indexing correctly as we go up. So I'll add that to the bottom one. Just need to make sure which way I'm going. So this one's actually less. So I'm going to subtract 0.25 and 0.5. Nice. So these should be our snap values. Need to find a way to mix them now. It's always hard like to work out where your masks are, especially when you've got stuff like round corners. We can't just do like a square mask. Just have to forgive me for thinking for a second. I wonder if I could just do like a This is a bit cheaty, but just use a difference node here and then do greater than. It's definitely not like the most optimized way to do this. So we're basically saying, what does the top row look like? And then after we join in the second row, what is the difference between these? Anywhere that there is a difference coming out of this difference node, if we put a greater than 0 afterwards, then we're just getting like a perfect mask in between them. A new way to make it. Yeah, I mean, I feel like planning your masks early is probably the best way to make it. This way can, like, if you make a mistake early on, and you can like precipitate it throughout the material doing this. Or sometimes you'll change something and it's like difficult to keep track of it. But I don't know. Sometimes you can get away with it, so it's always good to know extra methods for doing things. So just going to join these two snaps up to this. So that's nice. We've got our indexed cells. Just straight away we can put a value, random value afterwards. Maybe use frames to keep it organized. That is a good shout. So I have some color presets for these yellow ones. I always try and color things to be the same as the header bar. I just think it looks nicer. And then I'm going to pull them out as well. I wish I could set everything to be like three clicks apart for the grid. I've turned off my grid because I feel like it makes it easier for the, like if I'm posting pictures online, then you don't get any like JPEG compression if you turn off the grid. But I kind of miss it. I miss how it looks. Offset tiles. I'm just going to color it quick. And then this one is our, these are just our inputs. I'm going to bring these back as well. And then this is our top row. Oh, these also should go in here. If you ever want to drag something into a frame, it's just your mouse cursor that needs to be in the frame. So even if it's like this maximum up here, then you can just like drop it in like that. And if you want to take something out of a frame, it's Alt-P, like the same as unparenting. And Control-J to put that one in a frame. F2, tiles. Right, so this is where they join together. This is where we make our mask, which I'm going to make visible because we're going to use this mask over and over, I expect anyway. We definitely need to use it a few times because we want to have, to give us like a random rotation or like a slant for each of these cells, each of these scales, then we need it to be masked out for each one. It's quite easy to get like the gradient across them, just how we've done like with the fraction here. This is giving us a y gradient, and then we just need to get ourselves the x gradient basically, which we can do with a modulo. So I'm going to do that now. So Control-Shift-D, and then I'm going to set this to modulo, and we're modulating at 0.5. Oh, and that's coming off our x as well. There we go. I don't know that it necessarily matters that we're going into the negative on the left-hand side for this, just because it just means that our texture is going to be flipped on that side. But if you're using a somewhat unrepetitive texture anyway, I don't think it's really going to matter. And we can do some like random offset and rotation anyway, so it'll be invisible. I've been testing out this really great add-on called Node Tabber. I don't know if it's been fully released yet, but it basically gives you this search menu. I think by default it's set to tab, but I've changed it to the V hotkey. But like if I press in MR, it will search map range. Or if I search in like You can see at the top there we've got CX, but if I put SX, it's going to give us a separate XYZ. It's so useful. And I was talking to the guy about adding, yeah, right, it's so cool, it's so useful. Like, really has sped me up a lot because it keeps a tally of what you use most. So if I'm using the color ramp a lot, or like the emission or whatever, I don't know if I can link it yet because the guy hasn't actually released it. So I'm just giving him some feedback on it, but I think it's going to come out in the next few weeks. Fingers crossed. Anyway, it's super, super useful. I guess it just depends when he's got time to work on it. Okay, here we go. We have combined these together. These are our UV coordinates for the first row. I'm going to do the same down here. I'm just going to make some more space. Set this to modulo. Put the X in, modulate at 0.5. And then again, combine XYZ. It's given us the alternate UVs. And can take our mask and use a mix again. Top one goes into the top row. Bottom, wait, not that one. This one goes into the bottom row. So now we've got UVs per tile for every tile. And I'm just going to recolor these so that we know that they are UVs. So I'm going to make them purple. Should have used your UV map. I should have used UV map instead of object. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like I like object. I mean, we can just change it. It doesn't really make any difference. Oop. There we go. A bit more predictable. So we've got our random values. We've got our UV maps. So we can texture things nice and easy. We would like to have a bit of rotation, which we're going to use the gradients from these UVs. But if you think of a scale, where on the scale, if it's attached at one end, right, and you've got the scale coming off here, I don't actually know how scales are attached to people, or not people, like animals. I'm assuming they're just like stuck on one end rather than the whole thing. Kind of like fingernails. But if it gets pushed upwards, then it's going to be rotating from like the top point of it up here. So we want to have a gradient from the top, have some randomness on that, and then we also want to have like a bit of random side to side. And we're going to do that by adding some of these, the gradients that we're using for our tiles up here. Just because we've already got them masked together, I'm going to use these ones to make our gradients again. So I'm going to separate these now that they've been stuck together. And then for the Y gradients, we want to be starting at the top. The top of these is 1. So we're going to do 1 minus, and that's going to invert it. And then the X gradients, we want the random tilt to be from the center of them and to go outwards. So we need to subtract 0.5 from that also. Oh wait, no, because they're only 0.5 wide. Subtract 0.25. And then to make it random, we just use white noise. So we've got a random per tile. We have got this is actually 3 additional randoms. Or not 3 additional, we have the same X. But the Y and the Z are additional random values that you can use. And we're going to change this to 4D. Oh, I feel like I'm getting less nervous now. It's crazy how you like just get overwhelmed by stuff really quickly. I think I had like way too much caffeine earlier as well. It's just like getting pumped for this and then just like really overcooked it. Right, so we have gradients, we have random values. If we want random values from like a negative to a positive, we can subtract 0.5. Yeah, same as public speaking. I feel like it's actually less scary on Twitch or YouTube because we're like, when it's in Discord is where I'm used to like talking to people directly, and then suddenly like seeing a list of names in this chat room is like, ooh, kind of scary. Yeah, when you do it, you'll find it's like, it makes you edgy. And as well, because like we've muted everybody who comes in here, except from like a few people. So I think in future we might do it in the Hangout, just because it's like less scary. But I don't know, this is working fine for now. So I've got my random value and I've subtracted 0.5. And then I'm just going to multiply this by these gradients. It might just be nicer to do it in the other one because people can like chat and bounce ideas and like more people can be working, which is kind of the idea. Like, I've called it studio culture because I'm used to working in a design studio where people can communicate with each other and can bounce ideas off each other. So I'm gonna take another subtract here so that we have two different random noise. And then I'm gonna do this again for the other gradients. So we have random rotation. Oh, maybe I don't need to do it for this one actually, because they never want to dip down. They only ever want to go up. So maybe we don't need to do that subtraction. I feel like this looks good for what we want. So we want to add random, or not random amounts, we want to add some amount of these two gradients to our displacement gradients. And we're going to use the mix RGB for that, just so that we have this factor. And we're just going to add each one. And then have a look at this. So, did I delete that diffuse node? Great. Okay, so top 100 rock these side to side. And it does it by such a small amount. Okay, I'm going to also increase the scale of this. Yeah, that's a bit better. And then, I don't know, maybe this one needs its scale increasing as well. I really like with, like just when you're working on procedural stuff and it's just, I don't know, you get to a certain point where it becomes like the beginning of a material when you're planning it and when you're working out where your masks are and when you're working out like all of the different things is like way more stressful than once you get to like this stage where you're just adding features to it or adding controls and things. Maybe this needs to actually subtract like 2.5. I'm just thinking of where it's rotating from. I think it might need to be rotating more from the division in between here. Yeah, because they don't want to like push away the one above. Although we're getting this like, because we're just using normal displacement, we're getting this coming up here, these like streaks. And that's basically where you've got such a sheer displacement. It's stretching individual. You can see the triangles coming up like there. So you're just getting shading artifacts. But what would be fun is if we could have it so we can paint on where the damage is. And then we can do that with texture painting. Or I guess you could do it with vertex painting as well, but that's because you can use the attribute in here. So if you change that to, I think it's col by default, you can get like vertex colors, col, there we go. So capital C. So when you're painting, you'll get, if we go into vertex paint mode, And I set this to black. So we can like paint. Can we paint? Oh no, because we do not have enough geometry on here. Add another subdiv. And I'm just going to add, yeah, that should be enough. So if we just like draw out an area in here, then you can see that this attribute is taking this color layer from our vertex colors on the side. And that's what is being shown there. So that means that you can use Vertex Paint as a mask. And at the moment we're using the white noise to give us like a variation to the area. But what we would like to do is have that set. I think it'll be in here. So we can give this a multiplier based on the color output from here, which we may want to invert. Yes, we do. So I'm just going to add another math node to set it to 1 minus. So subtract 1 in the top. So now when I come into diffuse, you can see that we've got this region that we just painted on. So if we go back to Vertex Paint, and we paint around here, then it's just breaking up all of those tiles. Oh my God, I feel so powerful when I do this. It's stuff like this that makes me really glad I've got a Wacom tablet. Because like, I don't know, doing this with a mouse is not so much fun, but like when you make a whole scene and then you get to like paint all of your damage on, that's good fun. So we're just painting with black and white on here. So everywhere that is black, we are painting some damage onto. So I want to do some things with texturing. We want to put some textures on here with like random colors, and then we also want the texturing to be affected by our damaged regions. And then I kind of want to put it all into a group node as well, because this is going to be something that I actually use, because I have loads of buildings that have tiled roofs that need a shader for that. So we could use an image with it. Do you mean for the placement of the, like to mask off the damage? Like if you increase the scale, the image appears. Oh, I see, like to pixelate the scene. That's actually a really good idea. I love doing that. So we're going to add a value. This is our resolution, or our scale. We'll call it scale. So that's going to plug into this scale here. So this makes it a certain size at the beginning, and that's what we need to divide it by at the end. Scale can be set to like 10. Then we have not that one, but this one gets divided by 10. So vector math, set this to divide. And we're just taking this divide from here and adding it. Oh, it doesn't like that because it's going grey into purple, but there we go. Connect that up. Now it's all good, Fabio. Have fun. I'll see you later. Okay, so this is actually all you need to do to make it pixelate an image. So if we find an image, what have we got in here? And we can connect this to the output of that divide. Then Let's see what we've got in downloads. Oh, we've got Baby Yoda. So here's Baby Yoda in slates or scales if we change the inputs. We can increase the roundness a little bit. And decrease the gap width. Oh, and we can decrease the fall off as well. So yeah, if you ever wanted like a dragon that was like a particular color, then you could do like your painting. If you have like a proper texture that you wanted to import, or you've unwrapped it and you've made a proper texture, then this is perfect for it because it'll like make each individual scale an individual color, which is super useful and a really nice effect. Oh my god, it looks so good. I hope you've all seen The Mandalorian. It's excellent. It's really good. I think, are they going to make a second series of that? I feel like I heard they were. Alright. You should use this in everything. Do you mean Baby Yoda or... Right, it's such a good show. Gonna add a mix RGB in here, set it to multiply. And we're just going to take from our noise. Oh, the pixelating. Yeah, I do pixelate everything. But I just like putting pictures on stuff. I just think it looks fun. And actually it looks really good for the, like when we did the knitting before, it works for that. They are making a second season. Oh, I'm really glad. Do you know if it's got the same people? I kind of can't remember how the first one ended. Like, no spoilers, but yeah, it was excellent. And just the set design as well. Like, did you see any of those photos of the, yeah, no spoilers. I don't actually remember anything to be able to give spoilers. The set that they were filming on that had all the screens on the ceiling. I'm just going to show you a picture. It's actually crazy. Mandalorian. Yeah, the LED backdrops. Like, this is crazy that they filmed in this and like they managed to line everything up enough. There's a really good one of like a ship. Yeah, this one they've got part of the set and then they've got. Is it built in Unreal? It's just so cool they lined it up with the cameras, and obviously cameras don't see in 3D, so. Oh man, so good. Oh, Kev did. I love Kev, he's such a nice guy. So we want to do a little bit of tweaking the UVs of these tiles. Not for the pixelated one, that's fine, but we would like to have randomized UVs so that if we put an actual texture that's not Baby Yoda, so if we find like a texture of something, yeah, maybe wood would be a fun one, or maybe like a grass texture, or like a mud texture, just something to give it like a little bit of a gritty look. Oh, I've got a really slow hard drive that has my texture library on it, so sometimes Blender will start looking on it and it'll just crash the file viewer. Very frustrating. Save the file. Thanks, you're like my autosave, but it's manual. Okay, that's saved. Thank you, much appreciated. You can take another multiply down here so that we can vary the color according to the random noise here. just enough to give us a little bit of variation. And we want to be able to control a few extra things on here. So we would like a mapping node, I think, just so that we can control the left, right, up, down, and like rotation and scale. I'm going to just grab one of these inverts so that we have something to control the scale with. And I might just reduce the scale of this as well, the overall scale. So that we've got bigger tiles to look at. It's all looking quite samey at the moment because of just because it's all the same texture. But if we make sure that we get some random offset as well, which you can just take the color into here. Oh yeah, Control Save, Control S. I'm going to add another white noise texture just so that we've got an additional bit of randomness that's different. So take the value into the W, just so that they're like in series. And we're going to put that into the location. So that's giving us a random offset per tile. This is offsetting between 0 and 1, and only in a positive direction. So I might just increase the scale of that with a vector math node set to scale. So anytime you have yellow or purple sockets, you can interchange them. The only difference is when you go from purple to grey or from yellow to grey. I feel like we talked about this a little bit before, but it's a different calculation. Like purple to grey does the average of the X, the Y, and the Z, whereas yellow to grey does a luminosity conversion, I think, depending on the color space that you're in. Like the view transform. No, the color space. I think it's like X or R times, so red times 0.21 or something. So it's got like these different constants per channel. Yeah, anyway, I'm just going to increase the scale of this. So this is now from 0 to 1, goes from 0 to 5. So we have a much bigger scale on what is being moved. And we also want to have some rotation, which is going to be just in the Z. So combine X, Y, Z. And there we go. We need to find somewhere to do our rotation. So we're going to take the value socket here. And we're going to multiply that by, what did I just do? Multiply that by 2 pi. Just to give us the full circle. Hey, we've got some more people hopping onto the server, nice. 2 times pi. Oh, I typed 2 pi, but actually TAU, tau. That's a nice easy way to do that. I always forget that there are other constants that we can use with Blender. I ought to release like a PDF or something that just lists all of the things that are like easy to... Bruno Damasi. Okay, Bruno Damasi he's just hopped onto the server, but he's like one of my favorite procedural sculpture kind of guys. Oh, his work is absolutely stunning. Yeah, I'm just going to write him a message because he's excellent. There we go. So we now have random rotation per tile. We have random location, random like translation per tile. And we have random color per tile. Although perhaps that should be a random value, not color, because it doesn't look very natural. So just going to make that, just change the color there. And then if we put that through the diffuse, aside from the fact that it's mud, not texture, like a scale texture. I feel like I kind of want to give that like a fake ambient occlusion look. And I think the best way to do that is probably going to be with the displacement, because that's already giving us the deeper colors in the lower areas. So we have our displacement. That's looking way too dark for us to use though. I might just use, maybe I'll just use this one actually. So we can just multiply when you add when you add ambient occlusion to any of your color maps, you just multiply it. And it just gives it that extra little bit of darkness into the lower areas. So is there anything that other people are thinking of as well for materials that they want to make but they don't know how to, or textures that they want to ask questions for? We can do a bit of back and forth as well on this because it's live. So if anybody has any questions, do just shout them out in the text chat. I'm going to try this with principled shader so that we get a little bit more variation in here. And I'm also going to recolor this mud and put it through a color ramp so that we've got something that's actually green, and we can use it for a bump as well. So convert to color ramp. And we're going from a deep green to a bright, maybe yellow on the tips. Can you explain how you're able to focus it in the middle? How do you mean, sorry? Which bit are we focusing in the middle? Oh, the Vertex Paint stuff. Oh, where this is displaced. Yeah, we just used the Vertex Paint and we imported it with this, we brought it into the node tree with this attribute color. So the attribute node is actually super useful. I should definitely do a video on that actually, because it's got so many different things that you can pull in. We're just using the color attribute here, which we're pulling from. You can read which, if you have different color layers, you can just pull the name. And then, so we just did a black and white mask. And then we're using that to basically say where we've got this rotation. And that's controlling how much we add to the original displacement that we made. Just trying to follow these nodes over here. There we go. Yeah, it's just a nice little trick to use the vertex colors, because we're getting so many more vertex painting tools coming to Blender in the next few months, different brushes and things like that. I think it looks really interesting where the developers are taking it. So I definitely want to try and learn to use it a little bit more. Did you see the the brush simulation that they're doing now? So it's proper brush tip dynamics. It's crazy. Yeah, so impressive. And they're doing it all within the the sculpting mode as well, which is kind of crazy. Is it Pablo? No, he's doing it, Pablo de Barro. I know he did the sculpt brush, didn't he? Grease pencil can adapt it. Yeah, grease pencil's going to be just amazing, how hopefully it'll come on. There's just so many things. I was watching some of Blender Sushi Guy, Jimmy, some of his videos where he's done some grease pencil stuff with Sphere Chalk. And I've just got this idea in my head for illustrations that I'm now thinking that I can do in 3D, semi-procedural, painted but in 3D illustrations. I don't know, I'm still working it out, but it's going to be great when they happen. just going to add a, it can replace many painting tools. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've got like Art Rage on here. Yeah, I've got Art Rage, and I've got like Critter that I use a lot. I've got an iPad that I use Infinite Painter, and what's the other one that everyone uses? Oh, Procreate, and also Heavy Paint. But I'm just starting to think that maybe Blender could do all of it. Maybe I never need to leave Blender. Yeah, Procreate, because you can now animate in Procreate, and I'm just like, but I can animate in Blender. I don't. Why am I leaving Blender? Yeah, don't leave. Hi Vex, how's it going, man? I feel like I should look at some actual references of scales if I'm going to try and make these look right. That is not right. Dragon scales? I know Simon did a really great scales shader. She's on his ArtStation, I think. Simon Thommes ArtStation. Yeah, his work is just so good. I really want him to come on to do a stream. Oh man, just look at that. I like how he's done some are actually missing, and then the ones around them are like rotated. Man, look at that. It's just so much detail. Oh, and he's got like these tips. I really like how he's done that actually with the rotated, like fully rotated tiles. I think we might try and work some of that in. That happens like right at the beginning. It's one of the things that we do with the bricks as well. So it relies on each tile being defined and then rotated, and then the tile shape happening. Yeah, not just the tilt, but the actual, let me find one. So like here, I want to zoom in. He's got, oh, I can't draw on the screen, that's really annoying. So we've got like some of them are coming in like this, but then like over here you've got some which are coming in at a weird angle where there's one missing next to them. And then obviously he's got some which are different colors as well. Oh yeah, like here's one that's fully rotated sideways. It's just so many little details like that. Simon's so good for them. So I think I don't want to have to like re-engineer the whole thing, but I am just going to do like a different route at sort of attacking this problem. So just come down here. So we're going to add a vector math scale. Vector math scale. Okay. And set this one to like 10. And then, yeah, we need to define our tile positions, rotate them randomly, and then come in and actually make the tiles afterwards on those rotated positions. So I'm going to add a snap. And what are we snapping at? We're snapping at 0.5 and 1. And then we're going to add a white noise. So this is going to give us those random, the random values per tile. And then when we come back and actually do our rotation to this mapping, this can be part of our rotation. Oh wait, maybe I can just do it with a rotate node actually. So vector rotate. Take the scale. I think I'm doing this right. Maybe I'm mistaken. So some of these are rotated. Oh yeah, but they're all rotated from 0. From 0. So I need to do a modulo. And we can rotate them from the center as well. So rotate from 0.25 and 0.5. When you click drop down menu, you can press the underlined. Oh wow, you actually can. Oh my god, this is going to be so much better now. I need to learn all of these hotkeys now. Oh, so like Shift A, T, A would be image texture. Oh my god. There's a whole load of really inside here as well. Oh damn, I already know like 200 shortcuts to Blender, and now I have to learn like hundreds more. The math node as well. Does it work better in the color ramp? Oh, we've got them in here as well. Damn, that's really useful. One thing that I do wish is that you could search for like linear light, but it won't let you search that. Node Mario. I think it's really funny when you watch people using like Maya or something else, and they've got like all of their buttons everywhere, and then they've got this like tiny little bit of their screen that's like this big to actually edit in, and it's like buttons everywhere else. And then you watch people using Blender and they're basically like just typing really, really fast just because of all the shortcuts they've got to learn. Right, so we've rotated around. I don't feel like this is actually rotated in the... Oh wait, no, maybe it has actually. I was going to say it's not rotated in the middle, but it has. We need to make our tiles. And I think that just happens the same, doesn't it? We just do the same maths, ping pong, and then so separate and then ping pong. Ping pong, duplicate, and we're doing 0.25 and 0.5. And then smooth minimum. Math. Smooth minimum. Oh, but we are getting this additional bit on the outside, which I don't want that to happen because that's going to give us like an extra scale or like a section of a scale, which is not what we're looking for. We just want each tile to have a single tile assigned to it. We're going to get masked out? I don't think so, because if we've got, I mean, we can try it, but I think if you've got tiles coming up like this, and then the other ones are underneath, you've still got a section like this bit here, which is going to appear on top. I feel like the way that we could do it would be to do like an absolute here, and then this has got us. I'm also going to need to center my axes, so I'm going to set this to, so the center, we are centering this properly, the rotation, and we are changing the center of each one of these tiles. So we've got our modulo, we're going to subtract 0.25 and 0.5 to give us like centered coordinates in each of the tiles, and then we're just doing a rotate. And then when we come over here and we do an absolute, and then we need to invert that absolute. I feel like this feels like such a roundabout way, but it might be a decent way to make the tiles rotate. Yeah, so I'm going to subtract the y. It's going to be, no, not add, subtract. Yeah, I think that looks about right. And then the same on the x, we're going to subtract it from 0.25. And then we're going to do smooth minimum. oops, smooth minimum to both of these. So this is like, oh, I see. I have done that upside down. There we go. So now we've got like a sort of lozenge shape per tile. This is rotating them way too far. So I'm just going to add a mix in here, set the 0 value to be 0. So now we can get just a little bit of rotation. We also want to subtract 0.5 from this so that we've got an even positive and negative number, or like roughly even. So we've got, yeah, positive rotation and negative rotation. The smooth minima, this is giving us the roundedness, which is how we want it. And then we want to add in our gradient to give us the maximum. CG Lemon, great day to you as well, mate. Thanks for stopping by. The Discord's pretty active, so yeah, swing by whenever you want. Going to find me this Y gradient, and then we're going to just take that off as a yeah, we're going to multiply that by the output over here, just how we did up top. Got the cat confused. That's okay. So we've got basically what we're doing here is the same at this end. We've just taken our coordinates. If I set that to not do anything, then we can like ignore that this is happening. This one. So we've got our scale just like we did before, and we've got our modulo. So this is giving us tiles. And we are, in this one, instead of it being a ping pong, we're taking absolutes, which is like, so if I just draw out a tile here, you can see it. So we've got a line down the center in the X and the Y axes. And then we are basically inverting that. So we've got the subtract. If this wasn't tiled, or if the tiles were bigger, then you'd be able to see that this was, is that gonna, maybe I've done something which is like really, oh, it's because I'm changing the wrong one. So yeah, you can see that these tiles, they've got now just like black space outside, because before when we were using the ping pong, they were just like, you were getting all these tiles next to each other, whereas we only want the one tile and then we want it to be like flat black on each side, just so that we don't have to mask anything out later, which could be like difficult. So in this case, we're just creating a UV tile, and we're using a snap on the bottom to give us a random rotation per tile. And that's before we've done anything. So you can see that we've got random rotation based on this white noise. So then when we separate it, do our absolutes and subtract and do the smooth minimum, we've got back to where we were with having the actual tile, but they are all randomly rotated. And we can start playing with this seed. So in Simon's, you can see that it's not all of them that have been rotated, it's just some. And to do that, we can just add a greater than. And then this greater than will give us a threshold. So we can say only rotate the ones which are white by putting this into the factor. So now you can see they're all straight except from like a select few that are rotated according to this. Although you should use a different seed because this is all of the ones which are rotated in this direction. And as we add more within this, then they become like more upright and over to the left. So you should use a different seed just so that you're making sure you're getting like a clear cross section of left-hand turned ones and right-hand turned ones. So yeah, we just need to add color output to separate RGB. Oh, yeah, that's a good point actually, yeah. So separate X. So I can take the color output into the color output into that, and I can just use one of these other ones, yeah. Nice, good shout. Yeah, so it was dodge and then, burn and then dodge, and then we multiplied it. Yeah, I can't believe how fast this server has grown. It's actually really nice just to see how many people we're starting to come by. It's like, what, like 140 people or something now? So nice. Honestly, really appreciate everybody coming on. Coming on here. So before, when I did the remap on this collarbone, I'm thinking maybe we can just change the like the value that we're burning by to 0.25. Maybe that doesn't work. Oh, maybe it's 0.75, so it's like the opposite end, 0.75. Yeah, that's pretty close. So you can always change the value in the second socket to make it, to change the range, I suppose, of the factor, the way it's affecting color dodge. I need to try this. So R for color dodge and C for color burn. I need to try and remember all of these shortcuts now. Color dodge is getting white, so we can just, there we go, flatten them out. Add a math node, which is going to be set to multiply, and I'm just going to pull this Y into here. I might just change the Y so it's coming from the top down. So add a math node to that, and we're going to subtract, because we want it to be going in the opposite direction, we want to subtract it from a number, and that number is 0.5. Great. So that's our first set. We can just take, I wonder how much of this I need to repeat actually. Maybe it's all the way back to here, just for doing those other, the other like directions. So I'm going to just join that together. Control Shift D, bring it down. And this one is going to get an add, which is going to just offset by halfway. 0.25 and 0.5. And then we put these both through a maximum. And maximum is there. Sweet. So we're kind of back to where we were before, but now we've got scales being able to like rotate off towards like one angle or other. And we just need to make sure that we've got different, so these two are the same, these two are the same, these two are the same. We need a different seed for each of these, so I'm going to take a different one of these down into here. And that's going to just change that seed for each one. I'm just wondering what's happened here, because this is like broken this one. Oh, it's because I've taken it from, I'm being dumb. I need to take it from this one, because our offset was 50% over. There we go, we start to get these looking a little bit more like tiles, like rotated scales. And after this, it's just like basically doing the same bits and pieces. So I can just duplicate those down. Just going to line this up. So we're up to here. We can do the same thing with the mask. I can just actually copy this whole section. Shift D, bring that down. So we've got the difference between these and this. That goes into here. So this is our mask between the different layers now. So now we can have this coming out. We need to put something into the bottom of this divide, which is going to be the value of our scale. And just connect that up. Hey, welcome who just joined. And then this is Baby Yoda, but I can't see him. Hey, Tech, welcome. What does this mix do? Oh, this mix is for the... We are making scales, mate. Just gonna... I haven't actually connected in all of the different things. So up here we had this giving us the index per scales. You're making a Superman logo. Nice. Post it in the chat if you do. Yeah, so we need to find out how we did these. So we just used the snap values for each tile. You might need some help with it. Sure. There's loads of people around. So we can use this snap that we made early on. So I'm just going to add a reroute to that and bring this up. Connect that into the bottom. And then we can take the other one, which is this first one on the bottom. Take that snap into the top. And then Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda appears, although we have duplicated tile values. So we're going to add half of the difference to this bottom one. Oops, not in there, just on that one. So adding half, so 0.25 and 0.5, is that correct? Yeah, it is, yeah. Yeah, so even if you have to like doctor your node setup after you've already made it, you can just add things into the beginning, get up to the same position, and then you just add the same things onto the end like you had before. And this is getting the UV tiles per piece, which I can take out of this first modulo. A sequin shader. Ooh, that would be interesting. I wonder how we could get the, because sequins have a hole in them, don't they, in the center, so that you can stitch them onto stuff. That might be actually a really nice way to kind of change this up. Just need to grab that. I feel like node trees like this scare people off, but as long as you're just like building it up fairly straightforward, then they're quite easy to do. Now we could have taken it from the, I mean we did just take it from the modulo, but we could have taken it from the rotated one, because I'm just seeing some of these rotated nodes do not have like the rotated look to them. So that's going to improve if I just put them onto there. I know they've all got this like centered coordinate system, but I don't suppose that really matters as long as you're using like a seamless texture on it. So let's have a look at sequins and see how easy that would be. Oh, they're just like half. Oh yeah, but you do have the hole. It'd be quite straightforward. I think it would be fairly much the same process. It's just seeing where they overlap. It's like more than halfway, so you can see the 50% of the circle. If you've got a circle and that's the center, then these become visible here. looks like to me anyway. So we've got like 0.5 and 0.25 of the distance across. And I don't know if that would be any more difficult, as is -1 to 1 the same as y. Oh, is -1 to 1 the same thing as y? Do you mean on the Batman thing we did earlier? So if anybody's wondering, we did like a Batman logo with maths. Save. Thank you. Or do we have it in here? Blender tests. Yeah, we did the Batman logo before, and part of the formula is this curly brackets -1 to 1. I think that's just the range it's saying. So yeah, on this, so you've got absolute x minus absolute of absolute x -2 plus in the range of -1 to 1 3 times absolute x plus absolute of absolute x -2 -10. I think that's right. So that last bracket is bounded to like -1 to 1. I mean, I think, I'm not 100%. You should just see how it comes out when you do the, you can use a clamp node. Yeah, you could use a clamp node actually. They're just under converter clamp or the map range. Yeah. I mean, it depends how it looks, because we didn't actually need to make any kind of affordance for that in the Batman one. We just left it as it was. Although maybe that's why at the end we had to like squeeze it in and like cut off the wingtips. So you might find that that's something you need to do. Yeah, struggle at the end. Yeah, that is the way to do it. Right, I'm going to bring this down. And then connect these up. Ooh, interesting. So these are, we need to have the displacement to be proportional to the scale of the material. This is something that happens all the time as well. Just ending up with like ridiculous displacement as soon as you scale something up. I'm going to turn off subsurf as well. There we go. So, going to take this scale. Because of vertex colors. Yeah, so you could use the clamp node. I don't know if it's really necessary. Well, yeah, I mean, try it. You could use the clamp node and set it to min-max with like -1 to 1 in there, and then your, I think x value, yeah, it'll probably, I reckon it'll be the x value at that point, but only for that second bracket. Yeah, because it's just in that bracket, isn't it, where it's saying that it's only in this -1 to 1 of the second bracket. So you could do all of this first bit just like normal, and then for the second bracket, put it through a clamp node first, and just see how it comes out. That is probably what it means, actually. I should definitely learn more about like mathematical notation. So I'm just going to take the value, the scale value, over to our displacement node just to make sure that we're doing the scale of this is like inversely proportional to the, is that right? Inversely proportional? So divide by, yeah. Would you like to announce when your stream is going to be? Have you got it planned? On Sunday? Yeah. So if you're around on Sunday, come and watch Sharon's stream about maths and all fun things with the shaders. 2. And yeah, if you ever want any like more in-depth math things, definitely check out his videos. Because they are like some of the best maths nodes tutorials. So yeah, definitely check these out. Some really fun things in here. Right, we need a minimum as well that's coming out of here. So this is a factor coming out. Oh, we've never actually got the, we never took this multiply forwards, which is why it's ended up completely flat. There we go. So now we've got the actual tiles. Yeah, so anybody who's still with us 2 hours into the stream, if you're watching on YouTube, definitely come check out the Discord channel, because everybody's just posting loads of really interesting things each day. We've got some procedural modelers, we have procedural texture people, so it's coming out to be like a really nice community. Hi, I'm cool. You are cool, Vax, you are. Yeah, I'm not really sure where else to take this shader. Does anybody have an idea of things that we can do with that? TAC is posting mathematical formulas. So you need an absolute of your x, and then you need to subtract an absolute of absolute x minus 2. So let's just show this in the nodes. So what have you got? You've got absolute x, subtract absolute of absolute x minus 2. Yeah, that's correct. And then that is subtracting 2. And then you are adding this clamp. Yeah, I think, is that not right? I thought that was right. It looks more or less, it should be absolute after the, there isn't there? On this bottom string it goes absolute, subtract absolute. Is there supposed to be another one in there? I thought the third node was an absolute as well on that bottom line. Oh no, it's fine. It's easier if you look in the browser. You're not bad at math tech. You're good. You're getting that correct. And also you're here in like a procedural community, so you're clearly like in the right place for maths. Yeah. I need to connect up these color dodge and color burn because at the moment we've got completely hard sections on our tiles here. Did you put the clamp in the right place? You did. Yeah, you just need to do all of the things for that bracket. They need to come into the value socket of that clamp node. So you can do like a third row underneath here that's got that last section. You could always, you've got two absolute X's, but because it's nodes, you can take one of those absolute X's into the bottom one. So you could go like there and ignore that bottom one. So you don't always need to double stuff up on the separate lines, you can have them be separate. So the fall off is the color dodge, and the gap width is the color burn. And then the smooth minimum comes into the roundness. Oh, things are starting to update. There we go. Nice. This is starting to look like... It's not definitely never going to be as good as Simon's. He definitely spent a lot longer on it, but this is always fun to do this kind of thing. Just to see what kind of thing you can come up with. And it's nice that actually you're getting some of that additional control through the Vertex Paint as well. Put the value into the... Oh yeah, tweak the roughness. Yeah, it's looking dead flat at the moment. I just wanted to have a little bit more of these tiles coming up. Hello, Tech. The picture. Oh, the one that you sent. Just open this into the browser so we can see. Yeah, that section that you've got selected there, that goes into the value socket of your clamp. So you just do like 3 times absolute X, and then do that next bit of absolute just like you did before. Is that right? No, that's not right. Sorry, I think I've made a mistake there. I think you do... I think you put your X through the clamp, and then... So put your X into the value socket of your clamp node, and then you do that bit of maths afterwards with this new clamped value, and then that is what you put into the add at the end. I'm pretty sure. I mean, that's what I would do. So... Okay, so we're going to have a play with the sorting out a few things with the roughness now that we've got some of this sort of sorted out. Increase the displacement a little bit. You've got like a real difference between the undisplaced bits. Turn off the solidify. The undisplaced bits and the heavily displaced bits. So I kind of want them all to be minimally displaced and then have the rest of them be quite significant, or like as displaced as they are now. So I need to increase this scale. And we can increase some of the other controls. There we go. So I love with procedural systems how you just get so much control, so much flexibility. If we were modeling this, this would be such a pain to change. Like if a client came back to you saying that they wanted like every third tile to be bright yellow. You could do that quite easily with this. You could add in some mask for that. But if you were doing it like with properly mesh modeling, it would just be a nightmare. Call her reptile. Oh my god, the puns are strong. So we're doing this add on here, but we don't want it to add too much. Put 0.5. Nice. So I'm gonna have a little bit of a play with the roughness, just to give it some variation. Got a few custom nodes that I've been playing with a little bit. We have one for levels, review. One for levels, and we have one for color gradient or gradient mapping. So if any of you know much about using Photoshop, or I guess any like 2D image control, any image editing program, then you'll have come up against these ones quite a lot. So if we take Baby Yoda through levels, so this works basically like a color ramp, but it doesn't make it black and white. So if we add a color ramp in here, we get the same sort of control, but it's doing it in black and white. Whereas sometimes you might just want to be affecting your colors, and this is really useful for that. And then we also have this gradient map one, where we can put these in brightness and contrast node. It is kind of like that, but we also have gamma control. So that's like the center one. I suppose you could, yeah, put it through gamma and contrast, and then the gamma one. Although I don't know, maybe it's just controlling the contrast really. Yeah, Baby Yoda. And then yeah, so the gradient mapping one lets us use like other textures, which is always fun. Anything for Lord Yoda. It's not even Yoda, like you know, it's like totally different, one of his species. So you can put like different colours into here, which are like actual textures. You've never watched a single Star Wars movie? Tack, I'm disappointed. You're in like, there's so many VFX people in here. So I'm just going to be modifying this texture that we've got, just to give us a little bit of variation for our... Have you seriously not watched any of the... It's on your list? Okay. I'm just so surprised. It's like such a... I don't know, we'd always like always watch it every year. It's just something that you see. So this is giving us a little bit of variation based on the color. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of noise. So distorted noise, add in with, I'm probably going to use a linear light, which is I. Man, using these keyboard shortcuts is just going to save so much time. And we can change this to distorted. And much higher scale. There we go. the annoying thing about big node trees like this is just when you start like having to scroll left and right loads. But you should see some of the grasshopper scripts that people come up with. Zaha Hadid grasshopper. So like most of their buildings are designed with grasshopper, and their scripts for them are just like, and these will just be for like a section of it or like a piece of it. But yeah, grasshopper. It's like on my list of things to learn. It's just so impressive. I don't know if it's worth learning grasshopper over. I guess it's like a more employable skill than learning like Vertex or animation nodes, but yeah. I don't know, it's just this computational stuff. I just think it looks so impressive. Everything nodes on the way. I saw something that said, if you want to get a feeling of what everything nodes is going to be like, learn animation nodes, because that's like a watered down version. And I'm thinking like, animation nodes is not easy to learn now. Like, what are they planning? Everything nodes tech is the future plan for Blender. So it's basically like procedural modeling, procedural particles, procedural animation. Everything will be like available as it is at the moment with like traditional interactions, but you'll also be able to do it through nodes, like how you can with Houdini. So yeah, very exciting. I want to add a solidify, but I don't want it to like mess up my displacement on things. Just because you need a solidify if you want to use subsurface. Because otherwise it just does not look good. Oh man, I'm getting like pretty brain dead. What's the difficulty curve for node add-ons such as Vertex and animation nodes? That's a really difficult question to answer. I think that it's not crazy hard, but it's easier if you have an idea of something that you want to do. So this is Vertex here, and you can see that we've got like lots and lots and lots of different nodes available. And this is like, I don't think I've even got Vertex extras, which is like a whole nother set that they're about to add to the main thing in here. So yeah, there's just so many things that you can do with it, and like a lot of the way that you think about procedural modeling is different to anything else because you're doing list management. Let me show you what I mean actually. So if we want to add a cube, then we can do that. Let me just hide this plane. So it's showing up blue at the moment, but that's just like this. It's like a temporary viewer. It's not actually an object. It's just holding it over the console there. We can use a viewer bmesh and that will make like an actual object. So there we go. That's an actual object that we can like move and interact with. So let's have a look at what this is actually outputting. So if we have the look at the visualization, the text, viewer text, and I'm just going to put this into the text reader. So you can see that we have a list here that's got a load of vertices in it. And this is just basically just saying the position of each vertex. And this list is from like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the edges, if I put this down below, you can see that the edges are like 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 0. So it's like saying 0 to 1, 1 to 2. So it's picking like specific vertices and it's drawing in between them, the edges. And then the polygons, it tells you which 4 or 3 or more if it's an n-gon. Basically like which vertices it's drawing a face in between. So everything is based on the vertices. So if we like subdivided this a few times, then we can do like a displace vertex. So alt space, displace, displace, noise displace, and then we're just displacing the vertices, and you can see it's totally changed the shape of this. But this is just using nodes, and then the control actually comes, if I just open a file that I did recently. So I did a wave wall, which is basically like a just a surface that is shifted. Let me just hide everything. So this is using curves, if I can find them. There we go. So Bezier curves. So you can see that I've got all of these curves in here, and as I move them, you can see it's like recalculating the position of the wall. And then to do this, we needed to have, here we go, the wave wall. So we're bringing these curves in, and then we're doing something here which basically interpolates a surface across the curves. And then because we're using bricks that have a specific height in between them, we couldn't have this kind of like flat section where it's interpolated it. It's doing cubic interpolation. So we couldn't have this because you're going to have bricks next to each other, so I've got to remap all of my Zs. But you can see that this is, just put that back. So we have like a list of vertices here, and you're just having to control things basically. It's definitely not like a shallow learning curve, but it's not like an insurmountable thing. I definitely recommend getting into it. Everything Nodes is going to be like more integrated with Blender. So this is very much an add-on. It feels like you're doing something in Sverchok, and then you can like export an object at the end of it, like we have here with this. This is a bmesh viewer, which basically creates like an actual mesh. So I've generated some variations, and you can just like duplicate it and bring it out. But these variations have now been like divorced from the Sverchok algorithm. So yeah, definitely give it a go if you're interested. I mean, give it a go anyway. You really don't have anything to lose. I would recommend animation nodes though. I don't think it's quite as like low level, so you can't like get quite deep necessarily with it, but you've got a lot more like animation kind of stuff that you can control animations with. We've got a guy on this server called Bradley who does absolutely incredible work with animation nodes, and actually Sakura joined as well, and his food is just like, oh man, it like looks like food. Like, I feel like I'm sending people all of this stuff all the time. Just incredible. I'm playing with Sverchok for a week or two. Yeah, the documentation is really, really good actually. Oh, that's really loud. Yeah, so this is all done with animation nodes. Like, it's actually crazy. And like, one of the really nice things with animation nodes is being able to make these, like, you want to make Blender food, right? This stuff is so cool. And he adds a certain number of like things, and it'll add another layer of pickles automatically. I just think it's crazy. But yeah, you can add these like these side pieces, and it'll yeah, you get like controls like it's an add-on. They're also just really cute. So yeah, he does loads of stuff with like modifiers. So all of this is actually just with planes. Yeah, planes which have been solidified and then subsurf. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, he's on this server, so yeah, amazing. Where are we? Yeah, so I would recommend learning Vertex. I would recommend, actually, I would just recommend learning all of them. Sorcar is, again, it's like another really good one because you've got modifiers. Like this one feels very much like a part of Blender, I find, because you've got all of your modifiers and you have like selection tools. Just like loads of things like this. You can do a lot with Sorcar, but I feel like Vertex is the one that you can get like deepest into. And especially if you're doing like more architectural or product-based things, you can do some really interesting things with Vertex. Yeah, check out Blender Sushi Guy as well, because Blender Sushi Guy, his stuff is just amazing. He uses Vertex for everything, I think, and he's just doing loads of like experimental things. Really fascinating to see what he does. Oh yeah, he's doing a lot with AR as well at the moment. And he does streams as well, live noding streams. So if you're interested in Vertex, go and check him out on YouTube. Yeah. So, oh, I need to turn off this Sorcar thing. Vertex, sorry. Right. So I think we've got to like a certain point with these, and also my brain is starting to fail me, so I'm probably going to end this stream now-ish, if that's okay. And if anybody has any more questions, then shout them at me. No, Erin. I mean, we can stay on if you want. We can hop over into the Hangout and actually like chat if you want. Yes. Okay. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and if you're still here, then you honestly deserve a prize that I can't give you, but thank you for staying. And yeah, I'm going to be doing this every week, so hopefully it will get like less difficult. No worries. Thank you for coming by.